Okay, time to explore a little bit more. I was like, is that an assassin tomb? But that's not the family tomb. Yeah. Don't go there. Just the yeah, the assassin tomb. By that door. But I'm not gonna check that place out just yet. Not yet. I have things I need to attend to.
I'm sure I have just what
Ah, bro.
later then, yes? I'll find something by then, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have a poison blade now. A lot thinner than the hidden blade.
A great metal work here.
The customer is always right. Davvero, as is guided by me.
Right here.
Compared to actual hidden blade. Yeah, this is more of a needle. Still sounds really cool when you, it has a unique sound when you sheath and unsheath. And you don't get that with the hidden blades. Thank you for the smelling salts.
You look stronger already.
Grazie. Buona fortuna, dottore. Let's get out of here. To be fair, I could have just done with the greaves and the chest piece, I believe. But it's alright. Back to Tuscany. Alright, where to first? Oh, okay. I need to synchronize some viewpoints. Another assassin's. Let's go check up here first. There's a chest here. Not bad, but Another glyph. This one commonly used in like Aztec, or sometimes even Egyptian description of dragons.
Do you see what's going on? Not yet, but you will.
Instruments of power. The power they wielded cut down their enemies. Keyword cut. No. Otto von Bismarck, Germany. Crisis of Greece. Keyword cut. Attila the Hun of Eurasia. Samson, Hebrew. Alexander the Great, Macedonia. Sigmund of Norse. Charlemagne of Europe. Let's see any King Arthur, Britannia. Joan of Arc, France. Aeneas of Troy. Yeah, it doesn't show any swords there. So, what's the keyword is cut. No. Here's Alexander. Here's the Peace of Eden sword. In their hands, the wise lean on a great force. King Louis the 15th of France. I believe that's 15th. Is that the 14th? No. 15th would be just XV. I think that's 14th. IV is... yeah. It's IVV then VI. Emperor Shunji, China. John the Baptist of Jerusalem. Achilles, Greece. Amenhotep III of Egypt. Alexander the Great, Macedonia. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, Spain. Shabbataka, Egypt. Peter, Jerusalem. Moses of Egypt. They lean on a great horse. Lean on a great force. Oh, in their hands. In their hands. wise lean on a great force. These two make sense. In their hands, the wise lean on a great force. What does the great force they lean on? Obviously, it's religion, right? Did he ever think so? Here we go. It was the Staff of Eden. That was pretty tricky. Yeah, 1492. So they opened some kind of door? Interesting. Alright. Cool. Why is it so eerily quiet now?
The rats will have a rare treat this night. Freshly skewered carne Assassini.
I can't be that good.
Stop it, ragazzi!
Are you afraid?
Nice.
Better for you to die cleanly now, traitor.
Sai, le armi servono a duellare.
Now, you tire of vengeance.
Figlio di puttana! Che c'è? Aspetti il permesso del capitano.
Die quickly, capito? I have an appointment within the quarter hour. Oh, any last words for your wife?
Let's finish this. Sei in pessima forma. Dovresti fare più pratica.
Yeah, that's right. Back away, peeps. Might have to tear down a couple signs or bribe a couple heralds. Or just get them off our back. Let's see.
There you are. Listen, we've found Stefano da Bagnone. Just follow this road and it'll bring you to the abbey where he's taken refuge. Wait, before you go, take these. You can use them to create a distraction. My thanks, friend.
Coward does not make the monk. Infiltrate the abbey and kill Stefano da Bagnone. Ah, Stefano. Alright. Che la morte tiene pace che c'è cave. Stefano. Hey, we got smoke bombs. Let's go.
Let us pray, brother.
Pray? Pray for what?
The Lord's protection.
If you think the Lord has any interest in our affairs, you've another thing coming. But please, by all means, continue to delude yourself if it helps to pass the time.
You speak blasphemy.
No, I speak truth.
But to deny his most exalted existence
Is the only rational response when faced with the declaration that there exists some invisible madman in the sky. And believe me, if your precious Bible is anything to go by, he is completely lost his mind.
How can you speak as such? You wear his vestments.
Only because they afforded me the opportunity to get close to the Medici. But you're right. I should look into replacing them after the Assassini is dealt with.
Ah, that unholy demon.
At least on this we agree.
They say the devil has gifted him with unnatural speed and strength.
The devil? No. These are gifts he gave himself through training. It is disturbing how unwilling you are to credit people for their circumstances. I think you would make victims out of the entire world if you could.
I forgive your lack of faith and forced power. You are still one of his children.
I told you. Why are you here? What do you want?
I will
Glad
pray.
that's done. As you but keep quiet. I'm a people.
There's no way to the other side of me. Go back around. Kind of messed up there a little bit. Is he not going to move from that spot at all? Might be able to hit him with this one.
Attention, now you have it. Now I will see who was right.
Where is Jacopo?
Nothing to fear, my I suppose. They meet in the shadow of the Roman gods.
Ora sei libero dalla paura. Requiescat in pace.
I would like the look of that one. You there, stop!
We made it, baby. Let's go. And we got a smoke bomb pouch. Let's go. Alright, we gotta find some viewpoints now. Is this a viewpoint? Yes. Now we gotta drop our notoriety. So before we go talk with them. Nice. Farmer's probably like, hey man, my fields! You're fucking up my fields, man.
Madre Santa! Tanto lì!
Healing services for all the gods' flock.
Keep away from me, Phil! Guards!
Idiota! I'm sure I have just what you need.
Come, don't be shy.
Take no chances! He must be stopped!
Fast, damn! I won't go back in a cell!
Should be.
Season's harvest shall extend to every second bushel after 10, and 3 quattrini per hundredweight of a match.
She's like, who's gonna climb up here and read this poster?
Free of the Signoria of Florence. All residents of
There we go. Notoriety all the way down. I'm back to incognito again.
That's a man. Not like a leader.
penalties will be most harsh for any caught transgressing.
Ne voglio sempre piacere.
Hey, you make it look easy.
It's a feather. Nice. Only 90 more to go. I believe this is where we killed Vietti all those years ago. I don't know, that's right. Ooh.
A great metal work here.
There's a tomb over here too.
Has anyone seen my assistant? He was right here.
Not the bashful type, is he?
We'll get the damn braces for now.
That should do, I hope. And please, come back often. Fast, damn! I won't go back in a cell! Whoa!
Surely there's no need to be rude.
Merda! Whoa!
I'm a silly thing. I meant no harm.
Why is there so many robbers here, man? Like, everybody's trying to steal shit from me.
Recent good fortune finding new suppliers has paid off, and I passed.
I need this delivered right away. If you're quick, I'll make it worth your while.
Will you? Wedding bells are ringing. Deliver this letter to the chapel on the other side of town before the wedding ceremony begins. Let's go. Sorry.
Grazie.
No, 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 Luke, man, get away from me. Alright, fine, play me a song.
Times of greatest sorrow, when the tyrants rule the land, he strikes from deepest shadow, he is fate's avenging hand.
Ne voglio sei per
Flee, O verminous watch, he'll not abide your lies. Run, run till you fall in despair as he dances with jawed eyes.
So if he's more like that, then yeah, I'll be chill with him, you know? Play me another one, champ.
Onward you shall slay, good sir, forever taking heads of those who've done their foulest deeds and lives impious led.
Encore! More, please.
Somewhere on a rooftop, there's a hero in a hood. Fear him not, lest you who have sinned, for his cause is good. of greatest sorrow.
Grazie, here you go.
My lucky day. Gold! Va bene. Now that's more like it. Here, money.
Dinero! Gold! Va bene! Sì, molto bene. Por favor. Disfruten el dinero.
You think we are kind-hearted public servants how to gently correct your youthful exuberance?
Ah, okay.
Let me disabuse you.
Well, I hope you're feeling alright there, Bucko. Pura del diavolo. Guarding 276 gold. Magnifico! What? What? Lifts. What?
Supposed to be here. Go. Enough.
Oh, don't mind him. He's just taking a nap. Totally does have roofing. Here you go. Be up top one of these towers, I feel like. Oh, it's right here.
They were mostly heroes. See how the lineage is disrupted? The web of history traps the good, and the evil take what is not theirs.
Brothers. Okay. All right. Satan said unto Cain, Swear unto me by thy throat, and if thou tell it, thou shalt die. Whoa. So this piece never moves. And all these things were done in secret. This. And Cain said, Truly I am Manhan, or Mahan. Cain said, Truly I am Mahan, master of this great secret. That's it. Mahan. Therefore, Cain was called Master Mahan, and he gloried in his wickedness. A monster. Oh boy, here we go.
Behold, the mark of Cain.
Cain was a Templar? And this is binary code. Okay. So the philosophy of Cain evolved to become the bedrock of Templar ideology and the very engine behind the millennial-long ambition to inaugurate a new world order under their exclusive rule. His symbol, with which he branded, was eventually adopted as the insignia of the Knights Templar. So, Cain slaying Abel by Peter Paul Rubens. And Satan said unto Cain, Swear unto me by thy throat, and if thou shalt tell it, thou shalt die. The murder of Abel. Cain and Abel, and then killing Abel. So, basically, he killed his brother, Abel. Cain killed Abel for the possession of the apple of Eden. So yeah, the mark of Cain is basically known as the Knights Templar. So, five, two, nine, three, one. Bam. I'm jumping across something, it looks like. Not mistaken, there is another one over here too, I think, somewhere.
Come, good folk, see the latest designs from the greatest designer, me.
Still that feather up there. thought there was going to be... Oh yeah, there is. It's right there. Excuse me. This one is... What's the name? Anyway. Keep on seeking and you will find. First plucked from a tree guarded by a snake, its powers perform miracles. Then, worn across the ages, torn asunder, hidden under a sea of red, reconstruct the timeline. Joseph, Egypt, circa 1700 BC. Jason, Greece, prehistory. Jesus Christ, Jerusalem, circa 330. 330. Henry the VIII, England, 1530. David and Goliath, Valley of Elah, circa 970 BCE. Christ disrobed Jerusalem, circa 30. John Paul Marriott, France. Prometheus, Greece, prehistory. Hannibal, Carthage, 2 BC. St. Francis Borgia, Spain. P. Thanks for that, Rody. I know that's not how you say your name, but I'm gonna call you Rody to fuck your name up intentionally, bitch! One across. It's torn asunder, hidden under a sea of red. Under a sea of red. Sea of red. Red. Sea of red. No? Under a sea of red. Wait. Miracles. I've done these already. I'm stuck on this one. It's one across the edges. Worn across the ages and torn asunder. I might actually need help with this one, to be honest. Okay, hold on. So it says the clue by subject 16 is cryptic from the start. Cryptic from the start because it speaks of the shroud as something aside from performing miracles. For instance, the resurrection of Jesus at the beginning was hanging from a tree guarded by a snake. The tree and the snake are a clear reference to Adam and Eve, but here the snake guards the tree, so it may have a positive value, in contrast with the negative significance that it has in the biblical text. What's more, the tree and the snake are mentioned several times in the glyphs. Adam and Eve's story, the Garden of Hesperides, Eowyn's apples, the Norse mythology with Eowyn lungs, also refers to the world tree. Yggdrasil, jealousy protected by a snake. Nidhogg, the golden fleece, which is guarded by a dragon, which looks like a snake, as you can see from the image of the glyph. Alright, so. Pretty long ass story. Okay. So. First, pluck from a tree guarded by a snake. Its powers perform miracles. Jesus Christ, Jerusalem, Goliath. Torn asunder. Worn across the ages, torn asunder. Hidden under a sea of red. Reconstruct the timeline. What? I see. Okay. Is that a Templar cross? They took it. Shroud of Eden? 10152. The Shroud of Eden. I don't know what the Shroud.
In Aurora, Illinois, on May 11th, 2011, 6-year-old Timothy James Pitson was dropped off at school by his father, James Pitson. Shortly after 8 a.m., Timothy's mother, Amy Fry Pitson, came to pick the boy up and told the school that there was a family emergency. Later that day, James Pitson arrived at Greenman Elementary School to pick up his son, but was told that his son had been checked out of class not long after he was dropped off. They soon discovered that Timothy had left with his mother, so James called her and asked her to inform him on the situation and their whereabouts, but he got no response. At first, he assumed she was mad at him about something, so he decided to give her time to cool off. But when he heard nothing by the next morning, he alerted the police that Timothy and Amy were missing. Amy Pitson eventually called several members of her family, including her mother, who she told, "We're fine. We'll be home in a day or two. I just need some time to figure out and try to think about how to approach this." Instead of calling James, Amy called his brother, and at one point in the conversation, she said, "Timothy is fine. Timothy belongs to me. Timothy and I will be fine. Timothy is safe." During the phone calls, Timothy could be heard in the background and even talked to one relative on the phone. His family claims the 6-year-old did not seem troubled by the situation. Around 12:30 p.m. on May 14, 2011, a maid at the Rockford Inn in Rockford, Illinois, discovered Amy Pitson's dead body in the bathroom of her motel room. After taking a deadly dose of antihistamines, she slit her throat with a knife and also slit her wrists by cutting her arms lengthwise. Timothy, however, was nowhere to be found. In a suicide note left at the scene, Amy apologized for the mess she created and said that Timothy was safe with people that loved him and he would never be found. In a different letter sent to her mother, Amy writes, "I've taken him somewhere safe. He will be well cared for, and he says that he loves you. Please know that there is nothing you could have said or done that would have changed my mind." The investigation revealed that after picking Timothy up shortly after 8 a.m., the two drove to an auto repair shop where Amy dropped her SUV off for repairs. One of the employees then took Amy and Timothy to the Brookfield Zoo. They returned to retrieve their vehicle around 3 p.m. and then drove to the Key Lime Cove Resort in Gurnee, Illinois. They were spotted the next day on security camera footage at the Kalahari Resort in Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin. Around 1:30 p.m. on May 13th, Amy called her family and told them not to worry. Amy's cell phone signal disappears shortly after this call, and she does not appear publicly until around 7:30 p.m. when the camera at a dollar store recorded Pitson buying paper, a pen, and some envelopes. This leaves 120 miles and a 6-hour window between Wisconsin Dells and Rockford, Illinois. Police never recovered Timothy's backpack, toothpaste, toys, clothing, and car seat, leaving some to speculate that Amy had given her son away to unknown people. However, the car seat was later found at the grandmother's house. Amy's cell phone, some of her clothing, and an iPass device for her car were also missing. Bloodstains belonging to Timothy were found in the back seat of Amy's SUV, but police could not figure out when the blood was placed there. One of Timothy's relatives claimed the bloodstain was from a nosebleed that happened 12 to 18 months before his disappearance. The iPass device revealed that Amy had taken 2 unexplained trips to the area that Timothy went missing in February and March of 2011. This led authorities to believe that Amy had been planning her son's disappearance for quite some time. While Amy's suicide note claims the boy was safe with people who loved him, many speculate that she actually killed Timothy in an act of revenge or desperation while in a psychotic state. Some claim certain comments she made during her last days, such as "Timothy belongs to me," show she was in a vindictive mindset, most likely brought on by her failing marriage and unstable mental condition. There's also the fact that she excluded Timothy's father from all letters and phone calls in those final days. This brings up the theory that Amy made up the story about Timothy being safe so his family would remain hopeful in finding him and never have closure. Amy had a history of depression issues and previously attempted suicide by taking sleeping pills and sitting on the side of a cliff that she eventually fell off after passing out. Statistics show that a large amount of people who kill their own children do it for reasons of revenge during separation in a relationship, or because they convince themselves that death is a better outcome for their child. Police found dirt, tall grass, and weeds under the rear bumper of Amy's SUV. but they could not place the area it originated from. They believe this unknown area may be where Timothy was given away or possibly murdered. In 2013, Amy Pitson's phone was discovered near the side of the road on Route 78. Unfortunately, it didn't contain any information about Timothy's disappearance. Timothy's family doesn't believe Amy would hurt the son she loved more than anything, and they hope that one day, Timothy will return home so they can be a family again.
Damn, dude.
Steve Edekin was an American that turned his love for kites into a career. Well known in the kiting community as the creator of the Rainbow Stunt Kite, he was also president of the Rainbow Kite Company and chairman of the Kite Trade Association International. Edekin started his business in 1977, where he designed and built kites by hand with the help of his wife. He also invented most of the tools and machinery that were used to make rainbow stunt kites. On September 24, 1983, Edekin was in Long Beach, Washington, where he and students from the Edmonds Community College were attempting to set a new record for flying the world's largest kite. The college was trying to reclaim the record from the Holland Kite Team, who took the title from the school a year before. Edekin was acting as launch director for the record attempt. The 115-foot by 150-foot parafoil kite was sponsored by Budweiser, Long Beach, and Edmonds Community College. Edekin's team spent 7 hours trying to get the monstrous kite airborne, but it would not fly due to lack of wind. After giving his team a short break to recuperate, Edekin walked around the kite, strategizing a plan to make it fly. At that exact moment, a strong gust of wind caused the giant kite to soar into the sky. Steve Edekin's foot got wrapped in one of the kite's shroud lines as it lifted into the air, taking Edekin with it. The kite was secured to 2 dump trucks full of sand, but the ropes tethering them reached a max length of 250 feet. Edekin rose about 100 feet into the air when he got his foot free from the shroud line. The 30-year-old gripped onto the shroud line using his hands, but soon after, the kite began to oscillate violently from side to side, throwing Steve Edekin to his death. Reports claim his heart burst on impact with the ground, killing him instantly. Although the event ended in tragedy, Edekin and the Edmonds Community College team managed to reclaim the record for flying the world's largest kite. The American Kite Association created the Steve Edekin Award in honor of his memory. Edekin left behind a wife and 2 daughters.
Damn.
The Bermuda Triangle, also known as the Devil's Triangle, is an area in the Atlantic Ocean notorious for the large amount of planes and ships that have mysteriously disappeared in its reaches. Some attribute the disappearances to the paranormal or aliens, while others believe it can be explained by natural causes and coincidences.
What do you guys think it could be?
The disappearance of Flight 19 has caused much debate over the crew's fates in the Bermuda Triangle. On December 5, 1945, 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers disappeared while on a training mission from Naval Air Station, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The flight leader was United States Lieutenant Charles Carroll Taylor, who had about 2,500 flying hours, mostly in aircraft of this type, while his trainee pilots had 300 total and 60 flight hours in the Avenger. No one is certain what happened exactly, but some experts believe that Lieutenant Taylor became confused and disoriented during the training flight and mistook the islands they were flying over as the Florida Keys to the south, when they were actually over a stretch of islands to the east of Fort Lauderdale that Taylor mistook for the Florida Keys. After Taylor reported that Flight 19 was suffering compass malfunctions and he thought their location was over the Florida Keys, he was instructed to fly north towards Fort Lauderdale. If Flight 19 was over the islands to the east, then flying north would have taken them out to open seas instead of towards Florida. The control tower informed Taylor that he could not be over the Florida Keys since the wind that day did not blow that way. Some of his teammates believed that their compass was working, so Taylor set a course northeast according to their compass, which would take them to Florida if they were in Key West. When that failed, Taylor set a course west according to their compass if they were in the Bahamas. If Taylor stayed this course, he would have reached land before running out of fuel. However, at some point Taylor decided that he had tried going west enough. He then once again set a course northeast, thinking they were near Key West after all. The Flight 19 crew would have ran out of fuel shortly after this, and are believed to have crashed into the Atlantic Ocean. All 14 men on the flight were lost, and no traces of them have ever been found. After it was apparent that Flight 19 was in serious trouble, a TBM Mariner seaplane was sent to try and guide them back to base. 27 minutes after it began its search for the Flight 19 crew, the TBM Mariner and all 13 of its crew vanished as well. A ship in the area reported seeing an explosion in the sky around the time the Mariner disappeared. Navy Mariners have been nicknamed flying gas cans due to their large fuel tanks and their reputation of exploding due to sparks and pilots smoking on board. There are many ships and sailors that have disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle. One of the most well-known and mysterious stories is the tale of the USS Cyclops. USS Cyclops was a massive 522-foot carrier ship that supplied resources to the Allies during World War I. While transporting a shipment of manganese ore from Brazil to the United States, the Cyclops made an unscheduled stop in Barbados on the 3rd of March 1918. The starboard engine had a broken cylinder that made it inoperable. It was suggested that the ship was overloaded and should seek repairs. However, the ship's captain decided to continue with the shipment and departed for Baltimore on March 4, 1918. The USS Cyclops and her 309 crew were never seen again, and no traces of them have ever been found. Some believe the Cyclops was torpedoed by a German submarine, or possibly rolled over and sunk due to an overloaded cargo on rough seas. The captain of the ship, Lieutenant Commander George W. Worley, was said to be harsh on his crew and endorse shady methods of sailing. The most serious accusation against Worley was that he was pro-German in wartime and may have colluded with the enemy. It was later discovered that Worley was actually born in Germany and had changed his name after immigrating and jumping ship in San Francisco. Another possibility was realized during World War II when two of the USS Cyclops' sister ships were lost at sea due to structural failure while carrying a similar load of heavy metallic ore. Over the years, many scientists have tried to unravel the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle and given many answers to explain why so many planes, ships, and people have gone missing. Statistics have proven that the amount of disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle are not as high as once thought. One of the largest shipping routes in the world runs through the Bermuda Triangle, and when averaged out, its disappearance rate is no higher than other places found around the world. To explain the lack of debris found, it was theorized that strong Gulf Stream currents could move and scatter wreckage in a short amount of time. This, combined with some of the deepest marine trenches in the world, could make it extremely difficult to find evidence, as it may be in pieces all across the ocean. Another popular theory is that large pockets of methane lie under the ocean floor and get released in events such as earthquakes. If a ship or low-flying plane were caught in the area of releasing methane, they had a good chance of sinking to the bottom of the ocean. Some scientists discredit this theory, however, stating that the likelihood of a ship or plane being in the same spot at the same time a large amount of methane is released is equivalent to a ship or plane being struck by a meteor. Rogue waves are thought to play a part in the Bermuda Triangle mystery as well. Rogue waves occur when factors such as high winds and strong currents cause waves to merge and create larger waves. Rogue waves usually happen far out in the ocean and have been recorded at heights of almost 100 feet. The monster waves can appear without warning and may travel against the current and flow of other waves. They can form on perfectly clear weather days, and most ships cannot withstand the tremendous pressures exerted by large rogue waves.
Waves are pretty crazy.
Compass problems are brought up in many triangle incidents. While some have theorized that unusual magnetic anomalies may exist in the area, such anomalies have not been found. A compass always points to the magnetic north, and not true north, which points to the North Pole. Magnetic north and true north are only the same in a small number of places, facts which navigators have known for centuries and are trained to compensate for. This means that compass deviation is most likely not a factor in Bermuda Triangle disappearances. Although there may be many rational explanations to help answer the mystery, it does not mean strange things don't still occur in the Devil's Triangle.
I don't know. What do you guys think? It certainly is a
Steve
mystery.
Anakin was
What is this? Shh.
On June 15th, 2018, 40-year-old Saman Kondorura was one of the pallbearers at his mother's funeral in Indonesia. Part of the funeral ceremony includes placing the body of a loved one in a tower known as Alakian. As Saman and his family were carrying the coffin up a bamboo ladder, the ladder shifted and collapsed to the ground. The coffin then struck Saman in the head and injured several others. Saman was rushed to the hospital, but died from his injuries on the way there. Authorities claim the ladder was not properly secured to the tower. However, the family reported that they will not be pressing charges. The 40-year-old is now buried alongside his mother on the island of Sulawesi.
Shit. Oh no.
On October 24th, 2017, 36-year-old Natalia Nemitz was cleaning a tank for mixing caramel at a sweets factory in Staroyarskal, Russia, when boiling caramel began to fill the tank. Nemitz's co-workers noticed she was missing and soon discovered her legs sticking out of the molten candy, but they could do nothing to save her. Inside the tank, there were also moving blades that constantly mixed the caramel. The tank had to be drained before her body could be removed. Authorities believe that Nemitz either fell in the tank after fainting due to the high temperature in the room, or that she tripped and fell in. Local reports claim the factory management tried to cover up the incident and threatened to fire anyone that spoke about it. The same reports claim that it is the third death in the factory this year. Natalia Nemitz was the mother of a 10-year-old boy named Ivan.
Yeah, that's just crazy, dude. Like I said, this dude just gets straight to the point. This is pretty crazy.
On July 26, 2016, a man by the name of Satoshi Uematsu broke into a care center in Sagamihara, Japan that housed many mentally disabled patients and began a stabbing spree. The 26-year-old started his vicious attack around 2:30 a.m. after arriving with a bag of knives and smashing a window to gain entry into the facility. He then proceeded to enter rooms one by one where he stabbed and slit the throats of dozens of helpless patients. Within 40 minutes, 19 people were dead and 26 others were left injured. Uematsu then returned to his car and left, turning himself into the police around 2 hours later. It was soon revealed that Satoshi Uematsu had been a former employee at the facility just months earlier, but was let go after expressing his feelings that the mentally disabled should be euthanized. Police notified his employers about their concerns after Uematsu sat outside the home of one of the members of Japan's parliament for 2 hours so he would take a letter. The letter contained a disturbing rant from Uematsu, who talked about euthanizing the mentally disabled and killing 470 disabled people at 2 different facilities before he would intentionally turn himself into police.
Scary looking.
Uematsu was confronted about the letter and insisted he was correct about his theory, so he was fired from the care center and submitted to a psychiatric hospital by the authorities. At the hospital, doctors diagnosed Uematsu with mental conditions that could be harmful to others around him. But within 9 days, they concluded that Uematsu was no longer a threat and released him. After his release, he was returned to his home, which was located near the care center where the killings took place.
Yeah, that's why I like this guy, because he gets straight to the point of shit. No advertising, no bullshit, no nothing, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Nothing like that. Straight to what it is that he's going to be talking about. This one was pretty scary too.
On October 30th, 2015, there was a fire at the Collective nightclub in Bucharest, Romania that claimed the lives of 60 people and left 151 injured. The fire started after the band Goodbye to Gravity lit sparkler fireworks, which then ignited flammable polyurethane acoustic foam on the walls of the club. The fire spread quickly and took the lives of 26 people in the club. Another 34 victims died later while in the hospital, including almost every member of Goodbye to Gravity, except for the singer, who went to the hospital with burns over 45% of his body. Overwhelmed by the large number of victims, Romanian authorities transferred some of the seriously injured to hospitals across Europe and Israel. Most of the victims were poisoned by toxins released from the burning foam. Mass protests over the corruption linked to the fire led to the resignation of Prime Minister Victor Ponta and his government. The 3 men who shared ownership of the club were arrested on the 2nd of November for negligent homicide, negligent bodily harm, and negligent destruction.
There's a couple of other ones that he had. I think he removed them, or yeah, I think he might have removed them. I think there was a couple of other like fire club videos that I saw. Oh man, this one was so. No, I could not. I cannot with this one. Oh, this one too. God. Badfinger.
Badfinger was a British rock band known worldwide in the 70s for such hits as Baby Blue and Come and Get It. They were also the most successful band ever signed by the Beatles' Apple Records. Sadly, due to the financial misdoings of their manager Stan Poley, their money was stolen, their albums and sales were withheld, and the band was unable to play or record due to the financial complications caused by Mr. Poley. This ultimately led to the suicides of 2 of its members. The band was originally formed in 1961 as the Ivies. Before the release of their first album with Apple Records, Come and Get It, they changed their name to Badfinger. Come and Get It sold more than 1 million copies worldwide and reached number 4 on the UK Billboard chart in February of 1970 and number 7 in the US. Later that year, the band signed a business management contract with Stan Poley. This signed the band members to various contracts that put the money from touring, recording, and even songwriter performance royalties into holding companies controlled by Poley. This led to a far underpaid salary arrangement for the band that would later lead to further turmoil between its members. While the band was working on the 4th album with Apple Records, Stan Poley was working out a deal with Warner Brothers Records that demanded a new album every 6 months for the next 3 years. By that time, there was a growing suspicion about Poley's financial oversights, but the band signed the contract with Warner Brothers anyway. Only 6 weeks after completing their final album with Apple Records, Badfinger began recording on its first album with Warner Brothers Records. By the end of 1974, Warner Brothers had filed a lawsuit against Poley and Badfinger for funds that could not be accounted for. Poley was supposed to place $250,000 in a mutually accessible account which both Warner Publishing and the band could access. But Poley did not reveal the account's whereabouts to Warner Publishing, and he repeatedly ignored warnings to do so. Unknown to the band, threats of litigation had been going on behind the scenes. Polly's next ploy was to get the band to pass up a US tour so they could go back into Apple recording studios and record their third album under the Warner Brothers contract. The album could not be accepted by Warner Brothers, however, because they had already filed a lawsuit against Polly and Badfinger. Polly had hoped submitting the records would secure at least one more album cash advance before the litigation, but Warner Brothers refused to accept the tapes and never paid for the sessions. The legal action led to the company stopping the promotion of the band's newly released album, Wish You Were Here, after only 7 weeks, and ending distribution worldwide, thus completely halting Badfinger's career. Warner Brothers filed a lawsuit against Polly that lasted 4 years, with Polly finally being forced to pay a substantial sum back to the company. With their current album suddenly withdrawn and their follow-up rejected, Badfinger spent the early months of 1975 trying to figure out how to proceed under the unclear legal situation. Salaries were no longer arriving, and panic set in, especially for lead singer and guitarist Peter Ham, who had recently bought a house and whose girlfriend was expecting a child. The band tried to continue without Polly's involvement by contacting booking agents and managers throughout London, but they were routinely declined because of their restrictive contracts with Polly and impending legal actions. Ham reportedly tried on many occasions to contact Polly by telephone during the early months of 1975, but was never able to reach him. On the night of April 23, 1975, Ham received a phone call from the United States telling him that all his money had disappeared. Later that night, he met Badfinger's bassist, Tom Evans, and they went to a pub together, where Ham drank heavily. Evans drove Peter home at 3 o'clock in the morning. Not long after, Ham hung himself in his garage studio on April 24, 1975. His suicide note was addressed to his girlfriend Anne Harriet and her son Blair. The note read, "Anne, I love you. Blair, I love you. I will not be allowed to love and trust everybody. This is better. Pete. P.S. Stan Polly is a soulless bastard. I will take him with me." Ham's daughter Petra was born 1 month after his death. After Ham's death, Badfinger fell apart and its members parted ways. In 1977, Badfinger guitarist Joey Moland formed a new band and asked bassist Tom Evans to join. The two were eventually encouraged by their current record company to name the band Badfinger. They released 2 albums under the Badfinger name between 1979 and 1981. Due to fighting, Evans and Moland eventually left their new-formed Badfinger and formed their own bands also named Badfinger. On the night of November 18, 1983, Evans and Moland had a heated argument on the telephone regarding past Badfinger income still in escrow from the Apple era, and the Without You songwriting royalties Evans was now receiving, which Moland and former members all wanted a share of. Following this argument, Evans hung himself in the garden of his home in Richmond, England, on the morning of November 19, 1983.
Jeez, man. Stan Polly died of cancer, spitting out blood in excruciating pain. What's another good one we could watch? Hartford Circus Fire. This one is pretty crazy too. Walter Collins. And Matthew Broderick from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He killed 2 people and he only paid $175. Oh wait, have I seen this one already?
Corey Scott was an American motorcycle stuntman from Indiana that specialized in precision driving. He was known for his wheelies and jumps, such as the motorcycle pickup jump, where he jumped a moving pickup truck while a ramp was attached to the back of it. On February 8, 1997, Scott was performing a stunt at the Orange Bowl Stadium in Miami, Florida. The stunt called for Scott to grab onto a large net after jumping a ramp on his motorcycle. He made the jump, but didn't manage to grab hold of the net and fell 60 feet to his death. When Scott hit the ground, he landed on his head and broke his neck. The stuntman had performed the stunt 4 times before without any problems.
What? Because it wouldn't be as impressive or risky. That's still pretty crazy, though. Rocky the Bear? Sure, let's check it. Excuse me. Oh.
That's great.
Shit, dude.
Rocky the Bear was a 700-pound grizzly that was trained to wrestle humans. He appeared as Dewey the Killer Bear in the 2008 film Semi-Pro starring Will Ferrell. On April 22, 2008, Rocky was being used to film a promotional video with his trainer Randy Miller and Randy's cousin Steven. The video was going to feature Steven wrestling Rocky for an advertisement. During preparation for the stunt, Rocky became confused and proceeded to bite Steven on the neck and pin him to the ground. Randy Miller then hit Rocky with a cane, hoping he would release Steven, an action that Randy later said might have escalated the attack. After being struck a few times with the cane, Rocky began to violently shake Steven Miller by the neck. After the attack was stopped with bear spray, Steven Miller hobbled to his feet and stumbled off camera, where he died minutes later from a pierced jugular vein and artery. The incident was ruled an accident, but Rocky the Bear was put under restrictions that prohibited him from working in movies or being around people other than his trainers.
That's so fucking crazy, dude. Jesus. What is this? I don't think I've seen this one.
Dominique Ellen Dunn was an American actress best known for her role as the oldest daughter in the 1982 horror film Poltergeist. On October 30th, 1982, Dunn was strangled to death by her ex-boyfriend in the driveway of her West Hollywood home and went into a coma. She never regained consciousness and died 5 days later at the age of 22. Dunn met John Thomas Sweeney at a party in 1981. After a few weeks of dating, they moved into a one-bedroom house together. The relationship quickly fell apart because of Sweeney's possessiveness and jealousy. The couple fought frequently, and Sweeney began to physically abuse Dunn. According to one account, he yanked handfuls of her hair out by the roots during an argument on August 27, 1982. She fled to her mother's house, where Sweeney showed up and began to bang on the door and windows, demanding to be let in. Dunn's mother told him to leave and threatened to call the police. A few days later, Dunn returned to their home and continued their relationship. During another argument at their home on September 26, 1982, Sweeney grabbed Dunn by the throat, threw her on the floor, and began to strangle her. A friend who was staying with the couple heard loud gagging sounds and ran into the room where the two were fighting. Dunn told the friend that Sweeney had tried to kill her, but Sweeney denied the claim and told Dunn to come back to bed. She pretended to comply, but snuck out of the bathroom window instead. When Sweeney heard Dunn start the engine of her car, he ran out and jumped on the car's hood. Dunn stopped the car long enough for Sweeney to jump off the hood and then drove away. She later called Sweeney and ended the relationship. She had the locks changed and moved back into her home. On October 30th, a few weeks after the breakup, Dunn was at her home rehearsing for the miniseries V with actor David Packer. While she was speaking to a female friend on the phone, Sweeney had the operator break into the conversation. Dunn told her friend, "Oh God, it's Sweeney. Let me get him off the phone." 10 minutes later, Sweeney showed up. After speaking to him through the locked door, Dunn agreed to speak to him on the porch while Packer remained inside. Outside, the two began to argue. Packer later said he heard smacking sounds, 2 screams and a thud. He called police but was told that Dunn's home was out of their jurisdiction. Packer then phoned a friend and told him if she was found dead, John Sweeney was the killer. Packer left the home through the back entrance, approached the driveway, and saw Sweeney and some nearby bushes kneeling over Dunn. Sweeney told Packer to call the police. When police arrived, Sweeney met them in the driveway with his hands in the air and stated, "I killed my girlfriend and I tried to kill myself." Sweeney later testified that he and Dunn had argued, but he could not remember what had happened after their exchange and could only recall being on top of her with his hands around her throat. Dunn was transported to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, where she was put on life support because her heart had stopped. She never regained consciousness. Over the following days, doctors performed brain scans that showed she had no brain activity due to oxygen deprivation. On November 4th, her parents removed her from life support. At the request of her mother, her kidneys and heart were donated to transplant recipients. The night of Dunn's attack, responding officers found Sweeney standing by Dunn's unconscious body in her driveway. A spokesperson for the West Hollywood police later told reporters that Sweeney told officers, "I killed my girlfriend." He was immediately arrested and charged with attempted murder. Those charges were dropped after Dunn died on November 4th, and Sweeney was charged with first-degree murder, to which he pleaded not guilty. Sweeney was later charged with assault with intent to do great bodily harm when he admitted during a preliminary trial hearing that he had gotten into a physical altercation with Dunn on September 26, 1982. He denied assaulting Dunn, claiming that he was only trying to prevent her from leaving their home. Sweeney's trial began in August 1983 and was presided over by Judge Burton S. Katz. During the trial, Sweeney took the stand in his own defense. He testified that he had not intended to harm Dunn the night he arrived at her home. He claimed they had reconciled, were planning on moving back in together, and had daily discussions about getting married and having children. On the night of October 30th, Sweeney said that Dunn had abruptly changed her mind and told him that she had been lying to him about getting back together and had been leading him on. At that point, Sweeney said he just exploded and lunged toward her. Sweeney claimed to have no recollection of attacking Dunn until he discovered he was on top of her with his hands around her neck. He then realized she was not breathing. Sweeney said he attempted to revive her by making her walk around, but she fell down. He then attempted to give her CPR, which caused Dunn to vomit. Sweeney said that he also vomited, ran into the house, and consumed 2 bottles of pills in an attempt to kill himself. He returned to the driveway where Dunn was and laid down beside her. He said he then reached into her mouth and pulled her tongue out of her throat, something he had done for his epileptic father in the past. Sweeney's court-appointed attorney, Michael Adelson, said that his client's actions were not premeditated or done with malice. He maintained that Sweeney acted out in the heat of passion, provoked by Dunn's alleged deception.
In the heat of
Dunn's
passion?
family disputed Sweeney's claim that she had reconciled with him. They insisted that he went to her home on October 30th to persuade her to change her mind, because she had told him their breakup was permanent. The prosecution and police
Do you guys believe it?
also dismissed Sweeney's versions of events, as there was no physical evidence that he had consumed pills at the time of his arrest. Upon their arrival, police said they found him to be calm and collected. Deputy Frank D'Amelio, the first officer to arrive at the scene, testified that Sweeney told him, "Man, I blew it. I killed her. I didn't think I choked her that hard, but I don't know. I just kept on choking her. I just lost my temper and blew it again." The medical examiner who performed Dunn's autopsy determined that she had been strangled for at least 3 minutes. Police and prosecutors dismissed the heat of passion defense as they believed that given the time taken to strangle Dunn, Sweeney had an ample amount of time to regain control of his actions, which may have saved Dunn's life. To establish a history of Sweeney's violent behavior, the prosecution called one of Sweeney's ex-girlfriends, Lillian Pierce, to testify. Pierce, who did not testify in the jury's presence at the request of Sweeney's attorney, stated that she and Sweeney had dated on and off from 1977 to 1980. During the relationship, Pierce claimed that Sweeney had assaulted her on 10 occasions, and she was hospitalized twice for injuries he inflicted on her. During one such assault, Pierce sustained a perforated eardrum and collapsed lung. She later suffered a broken nose. During Pierce's testimony, Sweeney became enraged, jumped up from his seat, and ran towards the door leading to the judge's chambers. He was subdued by 2 bailiffs and 4 armed guards. Sweeney was handcuffed to his chair and began to cry. He apologized for the outburst. Judge Katz accepted the apology. Attorney Michael Adelson requested that Judge Katz rule Pierce's testimony inadmissible as it was prejudicial. Judge Katz granted the request, and the jury never learned of Pierce's testimony until after the trial. Katz also refused to allow testimony from Dunn's mother, Ellen Dunn, as well as testimony from Dunn's friends. On August 29th, defense attorney Michael Adelson also requested that Judge Katz rule that there was sufficient evidence to try Sweeney on the charge of first-degree murder because there was no evidence of premeditation or deliberation. Judge Katz granted the request and instructed jurors they were only allowed to consider charges of manslaughter or second-degree murder. Deputy District Attorney Stephen Barship later said this decision, along with Judge Katz's previous rulings barring the testimonies of Sweeney's ex-girlfriend and Dunn's mother and friends, were serious blows to the prosecution's case against Sweeney. On September 21st, 1983, after 8 days of deliberation, the jury acquitted John Sweeney of second-degree murder and found him guilty of the lesser charge of voluntary manslaughter. He was also convicted of misdemeanor assault for the altercation with Dunn that occurred on September 26, 1982. Dunn's family was outraged by the verdict, calling it an injustice. After Judge Katz excused the jury and told them that justice was served, Dominique Dunn yelled, "Not for our family, Judge Katz." Before leaving the courtroom, Dominique Dunn accused Judge Katz of purposely withholding Sweeney's ex-girlfriend's testimony from the jury, which would have helped to establish his violent history with women. On November 7th, Sweeney was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison for manslaughter, the maximum sentence he could have received, plus 6 months for the assault charge. At Sweeney's sentencing, Judge Katz criticized the jury's rulings of manslaughter, stating that he felt Dunn's death was a case pure and simple of murder with malice. The jury's foreman, Paul Spiegel, later told the media that he and his fellow jurors were surprised by Judge Katz's criticism and called his comment a cheap shot. Spiegel felt that Judge Katz's criticism stemmed not from their verdict, but from the harsh criticism he received after the verdict was given. Spiegel went on to say that had the jury heard all of the evidence, they would have convicted Sweeney for murder. After the trial, John Sweeney was incarcerated at a medium-security prison in Susanville, California. He was released in September 1986 after having served 3 years, 7 months, and 27 days of his 6.5-year sentence. 3 months after his release, Sweeney was hired as head chef at the Chronicle, an upscale restaurant in Santa Monica, California. Dunn's brother Griffin and her mother Lenny found out where Sweeney was working and began handing out flyers to patrons that read, "The food you will eat tonight was cooked by the hands that killed Dominique Dunn." Sweeney eventually left the job due to the protests from Dunn's family and moved out of Los Angeles. In the mid-1990s, the father Dominic Dunn was contacted by a Florida doctor who had read an article Dunn wrote about Dominique's death. The doctor told Dunn his daughter had recently become engaged to a chef named John Sweeney, and he wondered if it was the same John Sweeney involved in Dominique's death. The man was in fact the same John Sweeney. Dominique's brother, Griffin, later called the doctor's daughter and tried to convince her to call off her engagement. Sweeney accused the Dunns of harassing him and later changed his name. In interviews, Dominic Dunn said that for a time he employed the services of private investigator Anthony Pellicano to follow and report on Sweeney's whereabouts and actions. According to Dunn's father, Pellicano reported that Sweeney had moved to the Pacific Northwest and had changed his name to John Mora. Dunn's father said that he had later decided that he no longer wished to squander his life following Sweeney and therefore discontinued any attempts to keep tabs on him.
Jesus, man. That one was one hell of a crazy story. I'll be back.